Hi, welcome to another episode of First Connect. This is a webcast that helps us connect from one Sunday to the next, people, ideas, and places and things going on in the life of church as well. So welcome to this webcast. Dave, so on your home front, what's going on these days?
Yeah, man, we're still getting settled into our house, having a great time with that. It's great to be a part of this neighborhood. Kids spend a lot of time at the neighborhood pool, that sort of thing.
Ooh, nice.
And my kids have been swimming quite a bit there at the same time like as the SISM kids, but for the first time this past weekend, I got a text from Emory saying, hey, you want to come play some tennis? Absolutely.
Because they live in your neighborhood, right?
We live in the same neighborhood now, so I was playing tennis with Emory, SISM, his brother Ben, and Jeff Bogart. So I was playing alongside of Emory, playing against Ben and Jeff.
And?
So I'm probably the most experienced tennis player actually out there. I played a fair bit.
Okay.
But I haven't played in a year.
Yeah, sure.
And so I was a little rusty. Serve was a little bit off.
And those are all competitive guys besides yourself.
All competitive guys.
Yeah.
It was a blast to play, actually. Okay. I love to get to play with other competitive people who, you know, like, we get it. Everybody's out there wants to win, but had a really good time. We lost a close one, threw away the second set. I'm looking forward to a rematch very, very soon. Bogart. Soon.
Bogart Ben. That took
How about
care
you?
of you, huh?
How about you?
You know, so, I had a little manly time as well, but it was more of a project at the house. My son and we jumped on building a small fence at the house, so we got out the saws and did some hammering and got a splinter and those kind of things, set a little concrete, all for building about a 3-foot by 4-foot fence. Hide a little structure in a yard we wanted to do. So
you got to start somewhere.
But we had a good time together. You know, church this past weekend, this past Sunday, worship service, about 85 or so folks were gathering, so folks are still kind of trickling in.
Yep.
It's pretty cool, though. We're seeing different faces almost every week. We have some of the same consistent ones, but new faces every week. But speaking of faces, we're all behind masks still,
yes,
aren't we?
We all with veiled faces. I believe the Bible says something about that.
It does say something about that. One day we'll be unveiled, but right now we are living veiled. As well. So I wanted to see if you might be able to identify some of our church members behind the mask.
Please.
Okay. So I took pictures of about 10 of our church members this past Sunday morning with their mask on. We're going to throw those up here on a screen for you to see, for the audience there on the screen to see as well. You're going to have to name those. They're going to come clicking pretty quick. Let's see if you at home can do that as well. And also, the first set, I'll have 3 pictures in this first set. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. Boom. All right, that's your first set. Can you nail those real quick? You got 3 of them, 3 different folks there, and I got 3 more coming up.
Okay.
All right, here we go. All right, those are pretty quick.
That second one threw me off a little bit. I'm going to do something here that might be a little bit embarrassing to me. Okay, ready?
All right,
ready.
Here we go. And here is your last set. This one's got 4 in it. Okay. All right, so there you go. So that was a total of 10 people, 3, 3, and 4, and all. So how you feeling about that?
I think I have them all except maybe 2.
Okay, so that first set of 3. Tell me who you think they are.
First set of 3.
Yeah.
Alan Pugh, Rose Smallwood, Sidney Klein.
Okay. Second set of 3.
I believe is John Threet. Okay. I didn't get a good look at that second one. I think the second one was my oldest daughter, Anna. I think.
Okay.
I'm a little bit embarrassed if I don't recognize, or if I recognize someone else as my child that's not. But it's John Threet.
So are you going to err on caution?
I think John Threet, Anna Powell, and then Gloria Faulkner.
Okay. What about those last 4? They came quick.
First, third, fourth. Kevin Carpenter, Todd Clampett, Bill Miller. There was a young person in the middle there that I didn't get that one logged away.
All right.
I didn't catch that one.
So, folks at home, maybe you've had a chance to write them down as well or look at them. But here is, I'm going to give you the key. We're going to kind of go through a little slowly here.
Okay.
Here we go. So,
that's my man, Alan Pugh.
Yeah, Alan Pugh.
Rose
Smallwood. Rose Small, one of our teenagers in the youth group.
Sidney Klein. Come on, Sidney Klein.
Sidney Klein.
Yeah.
She's our youth, one of our interns. Preschool children's intern.
Right.
Okay.
John Threet.
Please
be my daughter.
John Threet.
Please.
And Anna Powell.
That would have been embarrassing.
So, doing pretty good. Doing real good here.
And Gloria Faulkner.
Our pastor's mom.
Okay.
Now we got
Kevin.
also
Oh, I called him Kevin Carpenter. No, I meant
Kevin
Hall.
Hall. I knew you had the right
that's
one.
Dano.
Daniel Goff. That's who you weren't sure
didn't-
about.
I almost called him Jay Shelton.
there's
who was
Todd
not there.
Clampett,
I got
been playing bass
Todd,
guitar for us
and
a
then
lot.
Bill Miller, right?
Yep, and then Bill Miller.
Wrong Kevin. I meant Dr. Hall. Got it.
You did pretty good. Well, there's the veiled faces, and all you did pretty good identifying them. It's not too hard if you get a little look at them pretty quickly. Hey, we did an interview this past week.
Yeah.
With who we do with? Great interview. Good time.
It was a great interview. We got to sit down and talk with Lisa Wheat because we don't ever get to talk to Lisa Wheat, right?
Never.
No, just kidding. So Lisa Wheat is our minister of children here at First Baptist Church. Just a great job doing that, and she's been doing it for a little while at this point.
She has.
Little
Yeah, we'll hear
bit
about
of
that.
trivia that comes up there sometimes is she's been here a half a week earlier than Mike Pasley. I think like she was hired on a Wednesday, and he was hired she started on Wednesday. He started the next Sunday, so they've been here together since 1993. I hope you guys enjoy this interview with Lisa Wheat. Lisa Wheat, thanks for joining us. Children's minister here at First Baptist Church. How did you come here?
I actually came up here after I graduated from college. I went to college at Ouachita Baptist, and so my sister worked for Lynn Lloyd at the BCM. And so I came up here and just kind of jumped in and got a job as an aide at Butterfield Elementary. And so then I worked at the university, and then about 3 years into being here, Bill Rose, who was the Minister of Education. Okay. That was his title, Minister of Education at that point. He called me and asked me if I could do a children's summer program. Oh. And so, I have a degree in speech pathology, not in children's ministry. So I
they
said,
learned how to enunciate real well?
That's right, yes, making sure. So I prayed about that, and I said, sure. My job was flexible at the university. I was full-time. Okay. And so I said, sure, I'll do it. So I had two activities a week for children for a whole summer, and then he asked me to do part-time, so I went on part-time for 3 years, and then after that I took children and preschool over for 27 years.
Okay, so did we talk chronology there? What year did this start for you?
Well, I moved here in 1990.
Okay.
That was right after I graduated Ouachita, and so then 97, I think full-time. 97 was when I started full-time. Okay. 93 was when I started part-time. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
That's great. So I've been working with you now for about 7 years, and I just want to get up front early in this interview. What's the princess title? I mean, it's not, I know you, so it's not like it's some kind of thing you, you own it, but you didn't start it? Where did that come about at?
Actually, I did start it.
You started. Okay. There you go.
Actually, I did start it. Growing up, my family always called me the prissy one.
Okay.
Of my family.
Okay.
I was extremely shy.
Yeah.
Growing up, not anymore, but extremely shy growing up. But actually, when Doug first came here, our very first staff meeting. Okay. So it starts with Doug.
So with our pastor now. Okay.
With our pastor now. When he first came here, we had a staff meeting, and he was going around to everybody in the room saying, what would you like to be called? Would you like to be called Minister of Music, Music Minister? So he got to each person. So I was the last person. And so when he got to me, I said, I like to be called Princess, but children's minister will do. And so it stuck from there.
Sure it did.
So
and it works. It works well.
Hey,
that's good.
Tell us, inquiring minds want to know, what were the Savage Boys, and the Pasley Boys, Jesse Lloyd? What were those guys like as kids?
Extremely rowdy. I can tell you that there were kids that were challenging for children's ministers, and not so much for me, but more for their Sunday school teachers, RA leaders, that kind of thing. But they were, now David Savage, I did not have him as in children's ministry because he was a youth when I got here.
But he had a reputation, I'm assuming.
Yes, probably. Yes, probably so. Yeah. But the other kids, yes. Yeah. Tim, Jesse, Daniel Savage. Yeah. I had Daniel Savage.
So what's it like now, knowing those rowdy boys then and seeing them now? I mean, they are they're parents and leaders in the life of our church in various ways. What's that experience like for you?
Y'all are going to make me cry, aren't you?
Yes. Oh, here it comes.
Not only Princess, you are the staff crier.
The staff crier.
She and Mike.
It really and truly, it makes me so proud. It makes me so proud to see even, Justin, who's a minister out, a church planter now out in California, and then Daniel, church planter out in Utah, and then so many of them, that are just out there doing things for the Lord and, shining their light in the world. And it really does make me proud to see that. Not that I had anything to do with that, but that I got to be a part of that, to be with them, to know them, and to know that you can be rowdy and still turn out really great.
Really great. That's good. The rowdy boys.
Do you have any stories from those guys, or from other crops of kids who've come through that are like favorite ones to tell?
Yeah, I do have a story and it was let's see, Tim Pasley, Sam Duell, Daniel Savage. See who else? Jesse Lloyd. My very first year that I started part-time. Okay. We went to Camp Siloam. Okay, y'all have to understand that I don't know anything about ministry to children really, and they hired me. They were like, so I'm like trying to do the best job that I can do. Camp Siloam. I could not, we're close. I could not get a dad sponsor to go and stay all the time. Okay. So they were tag teaming. They were going over and tag teaming. Okay. Mike Pasley, Lynn Lloyd, I can't remember who else was doing it. Big David Savage. Many of them were going tag teaming. Well, we had some pretty rowdy boys at that time who are not in our church anymore and haven't been for a long time. That we had a gap. Like an afternoon gap, they play in the afternoon and do sports and stuff and whatever. But an afternoon gap.
Downtime.
Yes, this is why I don't like downtime at camp. So downtime at camp, so they were messing around in the bathroom and broke the toilet, and I think water came spraying out of it. So they had found out that there was no man there. So they told us that we were either going to have to get a man there 24 hours or we were out of there. So they didn't say it that harshly.
You get sent home from camp.
But it sounds better. We got kicked out of camp. This is the year that we talk about. And the bad thing is, I wasn't there. I was not there. We had a lady sponsor, and they went and got her, and so we had to load them up. I had to make provisions and load them up, and so. Sam Duell and Daniel and all them were like, yes, we got kicked out of camp. So for years, that was like, we didn't really get kicked out of camp, but for years
it was like a badge of honor.
That was exactly what it was. I bet those guys wear that gladly today.
Yes.
So the coronavirus transition, social distancing, church shuts down in a sense of meeting on campus, things. Talk about the challenges early on and with children's ministry.
The hard part about it for me, one of them was technology.
Oh yeah.
I am not a technology girl. I rely on the rest of you guys to help me through technology, And so technology was difficult, and how you're going to do that with 3 ministries and 65 families. Yeah. And then the second one was just missing our kids, trying to think, how are we going to make connections with our children and our families and all there, and how am I going to do that? That was really, really a challenge.
Well, has anything about this period been surprising to you? Has there been anything maybe that's been better than expected, or something that you've learned?
The thing that I think is so great, that I have found so wonderful, is being able to see those kids where they are. We've done several at-home drawer drops where we, bring stuff to kids, buckets, summer buckets, literature drops, those kind of things, where we go to their houses and we drop it off and we get a chance to visit with them. And so, normally the kids all come to me, but now we're going to kids, we're going to families, and we're getting to see where they live and spend a little individual time with them. And that has been wonderful because and surprising.
What are some things that some of the teams, some of your volunteer workers have kind of kicked in and done?
So they have all stepped up to deliver buckets and literature and different things to their kids. They have been sending them in the mail, cards, and kids have been writing them back. I mean, like literal mail. They have been sending it, writing them back. And they have been helping us, making contacts. I know some of them have given gifts. Let's take Pam and Natalie, who teach second grade. Pam Pasley and Natalie Hall, who teach second grade. I know they have sent M&Ms in the mail to their kids with notes.
Nice.
I know Margaret and Patsy have sent notes. I know the Lawsons have gone to homes. You know, they have just been phenomenal, stepping up to making sure that our kids still feel connected and welcome.
So there's a lot of Sunday school teachers talking about there. How have you been doing Sunday school? What's that been like?
I send it to them every Thursday or Friday. I send it to them in the mail so they are equipped to be able to teach their own children, which is a really cool thing that has come from this.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in children's ministry, we say, we are here to help you disciple your children. We're not the primary ones to disciple. So people will post pictures of kids in Sunday school on our Facebook page and stuff like that. So we've been able to see that. But now we have gone to where we have Sunday school teachers recording every age group. Preschool children, and every week, preschool children and middle school, they're recording the lessons so kids are able to watch those.
Video recording?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's going out to all the families?
Yes.
Oh,
Well, so you and Mike Pasley have been here 27 years together.
Yes.
I know that you and the Pasleys are close, have been close for a long time. Do you have any sort of a story specifically on Mike? We don't drag Pam through the mud with Mike.
No.
Do you have any Mike stories you can share with us?
You know, Mike and I have, I guess it's 27 years this year that we have worked together, if you include my part-time and full-time.
Wow.
And I have learned a ton from Mike Pasley.
Can any of it be shared?
Some of it.
Some of it can be
maybe.
shared.
Some of it can be shared. Now, there's been a lot of apologies back and forth.
Okay.
Him apologizing to me apologizing to him
Okay.
for the family.
Nice.
But I will share one story that y'all may not know this about me. Y'all probably, this is like a church. It's not like a funny story or
do
anything
tell.
in particular. But we had a singles group, young career group. And it was, my sister was in it. So it was like in the first years that Mike was here. I think there were 6 or 7 of us. And we were the first light group. Yes.
I don't think I remember that.
I am not a
So
singer.
First Light is a singing
Is
group.
a singing group. Yes, is a singing group in church.
Yeah.
I'm not a singer.
Do you remember what you sang?
Yeah, I remember one Christmas song. Boom, boom, boom. And we still sing that today.
Nice. Nice.
But it was seriously, I'm not a singer. I was there just to fill out the group. Basically, they had my microphone off most of the time. We had one lady who was in the group, one girl who was in the group, and she was a phenomenal singer. I mean, phenomenal singer. And one Sunday, she wasn't there. On a Sunday, we were singing a special. And so we told Mike, my sister and I, she's a singer, my sister's a singer. I said, we cannot do this, Mike. I said, we are not singers. We cannot do this. We cannot sing in church this morning. And he looked at us and he said, if she fell off the side of the cliff, you two would have to carry it. So let's get moving. And so,
There you go.
you know, that was a lesson learned from Mike, for me. If somebody falls off a cliff, we got to step up and do things.
Step up. Step up. Well, you're one of our ministers here on staff. You talked about Mike and that team and learning and those things. I'm just curious. You know, we as ministers, we always want to encourage people. You ought to be growing. What's going on in your lives these days? How are you learning? What are some of those things? So I'm just going to kind of pose that question to you. What's some of the things, maybe on a personal level or a ministry level? What have you been learning? Maybe in the past year, the past couple of years, and maybe in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think relearning would be a good thing for me to say. For me,
Okay.
just about the real importance of prayer, and keeping people prayed for, and letting people know that you're praying for them. That's a huge thing, and God has really taught me in the last probably couple of years that when you say you're going to pray for somebody, do it, and do it right then. So if you came up and said, Lisa, would you pray for me about this? Stop right now and say, let's pray right now.
Yeah.
So if people call me, you know, then I'm saying, can I pray for you right now over the phone? So I really try to do that.
Oh, that's great.
And really try to focus on that because it's his work. It's not our work. And we're joining in with him where he's at work in different places. And so, but also the relationships, the importance of people over programs. That.
Good word.
Well, Lisa, thanks for taking the time to sit down and talk with us, and we hope you guys have enjoyed this little time together.
All right, well, welcome back. That was a great interview with Lisa, and it was great because...
Well, I mean, we do a great job with it, right?
I knew he would go there.
Well,
no. We have a good time visiting with Lisa. What were some of your takeaways?
Yeah, well, again, I need to issue a little apology to the people out there because
apologies. Okay.
I felt like Lisa was on the verge of crying for us.
Okay, yes, she
and like I kind of jumped in. I think almost made her laugh where she didn't get to get that all out.
She did her typical.
I deprived the people. Lisa and Mike are kind of our two staff criers.
Yes.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for it. No, in all seriousness, that was I really enjoyed that time with Lisa. Man, just the job that she does with her children's ministry.
She loves people, loves our church.
Yeah, so I oversee our ministry to junior high and high school. And she deals with everybody younger than that. I have 4 kids down in her age group. Yeah. And I mean, just Lisa, just know that we're appreciative of the job that you do. One thing I took away from this interview was what's reminding Lisa right now is that parents are the primary disciple makers to their kids. That's what Deuteronomy 6 says. That's what Ephesians chapter 6 says. We agree to that and we profess that here. But while I still do a lot of our ministry directly with students in this period, we do so much over Zoom. Sunday school Zoom. I meet with a group of guys on Monday afternoons over Zoom. I meet with a book study group on Tuesday afternoons over Zoom, and I meet with after the Joe Cast on Wednesday nights. It's just a hangout time playing games on Zoom. It's a little bit different when you're dealing with the younger ones. Yeah. And so it's kind of forced Lisa to do some really good stuff in getting materials out to our families, to engage parents there and to challenge our parents, including this parent, to step up our game when it comes to discipling our own children. Yeah. And so, Lisa, you've done an excellent job with that. How about you? What did you take away from it?
You know, there's a couple things she said. One, she kind of finished up that interview just on prayer. It's kind of personally the power of prayer, the need for prayer, and connecting with folks. But then she said, remembering that ministry and being a part of the body of Christ, it's about people over programs. Yeah. And putting people first. So all the things, the summer buckets of fun, the things that are going out,
scavenger hunt,
have all been put together through the filter of people. How to help people, how to help moms and dads teach God's truth and God's word. So, just, in a sense, rediscovering some things that maybe we ought to be part of our normal, part of what we're already doing, and things. Kind of, we talked about. Several weeks ago, David and I talked about this article by Trevor Wax about normal. What's not normal now? What will be normal again? What do we want to take into whatever a new normal might be? Do we just want to go back to things as well? Why don't you hit a little bit of the article? You digested it pretty good.
Right. So this article kind of has me all over the time map because if you'll think back with me, mid-March is when coronavirus and quarantine kicked in. I remember the very last thing we did was a Friday night, March 13th, Friday the 13th, for the youth. We did a game night up here in the youth room, and we haven't done another official gathering thing since then in 3 months. He wrote this article less than a month after that. So this is from early April. I think when people were already feeling a little stir-crazy, like in a very mild way compared to where we are now.
Golly.
And the article was just asking, do we really want to go back to normal? Yeah. Because people have been tired of being at their houses, of seeing just that same set of people that we love all the time. You know, for me, 4 kids and my wife, people I dearly love all the time. But we know that we want more in our lives than just that. More people, more action, more events and trips and those sorts of things. We want that. So for many of us, that means we long for normalcy. Yeah. We want things to be normal. This article, though, is challenging that, saying this. Here's the question I hope we'll begin to ask instead. We're not going back. Do we really want to go back to normal? Was the old normal good? Were we really flourishing in the old normal? Was the old normal spiritually healthy? And so he goes on to talk about this. If we can remember what the world we used to live in kind of felt like a little while back, it looked like this. Less and less in-person interactions, which I think we're all really feeling now like I need to be around people. I need to have these interactions. And then if we can actually take a step back and think objectively, we remember, and yet we were living in a world with less and less
already
in-person interactions than we'd ever had before.
It's already happening.
And so I almost think there's, again, a measure of God's grace in this and kind of pulling that rug out from under us altogether. Mm-hmm. Maybe to knock us on our backs or cause us to fall to our knees or on our faces, where we can kind of think clearly about this. So there were fewer in-person interactions. There were looser commitments. There was more polarization. And there's a lot of loneliness in our world before this stuff happened. Yeah. And so we know our neighbors less. We are even church people, Christians are less regular even at our own churches. Mm-hmm. Less regular at like civic groups. He makes the case in here that like family time has suffered. Man, because how much of the time that we spend in our houses is spent glued to our devices? Yeah. Whether it's our phones or our big screens up there. Yeah. He says we become more consumers than cultivators or creators of things. So if you've ever seen the movie WALL-E, like really disturbing look from like 10 or 15 years ago into this alternate, reality, or this what might become, where people just sit back in like motorized lazy boys going, through the spaceship of life
with the screen just inches from their face all the
time.
time.
And that's all they did with their, with their 44-ounce cups and whatnot. Yes. Like, again, this is before more of that really became even reality when that movie came out. How much of our lives just come down to consumption, at this point. And then, of course, living in this time of political polarization, which, again, is interesting because Trevin Wax was writing this at the beginning of April, before even really things started to flare up over this last month or so.
Another fissure,
Do we really want to go back to that normal?
That kind of normal.
What do you think?
And kind of hearing you run through that again, it just, I think of the word presence. Yeah. I was reading this other article about presence being a spiritual gift, and the writer of the article, he really kind of pulls out of Romans chapter 1 verses 11 and 12. I think I'll go ahead and just read it. I got my Bible right here. But so Romans 1 verses 11 and 12. This is the way they read it.
How dare you bring a Bible onto our show, Lance?
Yeah, exactly. And I got to bring these on here too, for sure. It says this, Paul writing to the Romans, early in Romans, "For I want very much to see you, so I may impart to you some spiritual gift to strengthen you. Yeah. That is to be mutually encouraged by each other's faith, both yours and mine." And so not only did the writer of this article make this connect, but I believe it's a good connect that Paul is writing to the Romans saying, I'm coming to you. I'm ready to see you. I want to be there with you. We just did a study of Romans in Sunday school with all of our adults. I know
we're still in it.
You're kind of finishing it up as well. Josh has been preaching on that as well. And Paul's looking forward to being with them. And he says there's going to be a spiritual gift in which I will bring. Yeah. And there's that presence. That spiritual gift will happen when I'm there. Maybe that spiritual gift is he assesses and he sees as a spiritual leader, as a pastoral leader, he begins to see some things that he can only see when he's present with people. And so all these things that you're listing there talk about how the presence, what do you call it, the ministry of presence for one another, was already waning, was already deficient amongst us.
That's good. That's good. I was saying before, I think that this entire experience, again, nothing fun about it. No. I wouldn't ask to go back and relive this, but Trevin Wax asks a few questions here, and he just says this. What if this crisis is a divine disruption that allows us to rethink ourselves, to rethink our lives, to reconsider our habits? What if this crisis is a divine opportunity to reflect on what matters most and to order our lives accordingly? What if we now have the opportunity to make different decisions? Yeah. That's something I'm finding right now. I talked about these Zoom groups that are meeting right now. Yeah. And one thing is true, that it's not always possible for me to get these groups pulled together. But again, something that God has done is he has so cleared up so many people's schedules of these things that we would almost always be doing, especially it's summertime now.
Yeah.
Like people would be vacationing all over the place. You'd have team travel sports up and going. There might be various camps, activities going on, but instead like people are around and available.
Yeah.
You know, and there's opportunity in that where God may be doing some of this, giving us some time and some space to take a step back. And this is for us personally and as families, but this is also true for us even in our ministries and with church.
Yeah.
So like normally me with the students, I would be elsewhere right now, almost definitely. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think, am I right about this? I think this is the week we talked about going and making up the spring break Mission Arlington trip like right now.
Yeah.
But here I am sitting with you.
Yeah.
And glad to be doing
sorry.
so. And
So
glad
sorry.
to be doing so. But where God is taking us out of our routines and our normals, and maybe for me, I'm just kind of asking this question, and this goes hand in hand with this book study of Something Needs to Change by David Platt that I'm doing with these students. Just asking, okay, so I live here in this community in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
What role is my life and my ministry and my group, what role are we playing here?
Yeah.
Is there something more that God would want to do through us in our community around us? And I think God's got something for us in that.
Yeah. So in our church, if you've been a part of it for any time, you know that we kind of have 4 pillars or maybe 4 core values that we share all the time: to connect, to grow, to serve, to go. Those aren't words that just kind of flow well together. Those are truths and principles out of God's scripture. We talk about connecting with God and with other people, being present with God, present with other people. Talk about growing in God's word and understanding that, and then living it out. And so you're asking the very thing there of what does it mean to offer myself up as a living sacrifice, holy, pleasing to God, not as a dead sacrifice, but I'm living in this. So what is the new normal going to be for me as I live a sacrificial life instead of consuming the Netflix binges that I've been on, instead of consuming the Twitter feeds that are there, that was evidently happening in our society prior to all this, that has just been accentuated in the separation as well, to offer ourselves up, to step into that and to live into that in our lives.
Well, and it was the same thing the children of Israel were talking about when they came out of Egypt. Mm-hmm. And they realized we need water, we need stuff to eat. By the way, Moses, why did you even bring us out here to die?
Come on now.
You remember how great it was in Egypt? It was great back in Egypt, as I recall. Why don't we just go back there?
We had it all.
We had everything we needed in Egypt.
Axes and picks.
So
and
yeah,
sand.
absolutely. Where we can become nostalgic about a past maybe that never even really was.
Yeah.
And that there may be something in that for us too.
Yeah.
And so this article, again, Do We Really Want to Go Back to Normal by Trevin Wax, he just concludes it like this. Let's not go back to normal. Let's come away from this challenge with a new vision of what normal could be. So I was just doing a little bit of brainstorming before we got going on this. What might a new normal look like this?
Yeah.
It might look like this. It might look like teenagers meeting together to pray before school. It might look like groups of my students starting to text each other encouraging messages, challenges on things that they're learning in and growing. Hey, I've got this big thing coming up. I'm going to talk to somebody today about my faith. Would you pray for me? It might look like that. For parents, it might look like carving time out of our busy schedules at home.
Oh, yeah.
To engage our kids in spiritual discussion. Man, and I'm talking to myself here as much as anybody. Have I shared my testimony with my kids? How much of now my kids are little and they're growing, but how many of the stories of my own past have I shared with my kids?
There you go, preach it, brother.
My successes, my failures.
Yes.
For parents, sharing what we're learning with our children right now. So if we're supposed to be following Jesus day after day, week after week through our lives, my understanding is we'd be learning and we'd be growing. Are we inviting our kids into that?
Yeah.
Maybe a dad with his son, or a mom with your daughter, or we can mix and match that. Maybe it would look like this. Maybe a dad with his son sitting down and starting to read through a book of the Bible. And I would say in a few ways, slowly, not trying to rush through this thing, not trying to hit a deadline or something, but just to to stay on it.
Now you're messing.
Thoughtfully, in a way where it's not just for understanding, but for thought, for like application. How can I live this out?
Yeah.
And then the one I think most of us struggle with consistently. Building it into our schedules, building it into our lives. My next thought here, and I'm quoting Lance actually from a discussion earlier, and he just said this, that some of you need to go start something new, which might mean going and starting a new small group with some people. It might mean going and starting a new needed ministry that you see with some other people. It might even mean jumping in on something else that's already going out there that you haven't been a part of before.
Yeah.
For our families, it might be some of what we were talking about before, inviting other families into our homes.
Get on the front porch.
Get the ministry of the front porch and the ministry of the patio and the ministry of the backyard going.
Yeah.
It might look like for adults, you, me, stepping into discipleship groups. We call them D groups among the students. Getting into a D group, getting some accountability. Just let me ask you this question real quick. If you're an adult listening, do you presently have anyone with access to your life who's able to speak whatever truth you need to hear?
Yeah. Life on life.
It might look like families. If you were paying attention to Josh's message last night, he was in Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, talking about life as worship. How about this? How about budgeting as worship? I'm going to go home and think a little bit about that one myself tonight.
Ouch.
And one more thought for church members as we come out of this thing, because we don't want to go back to what was normal.
Yeah.
What was normal was okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yep. Let's do better to make church a priority. So church, not some event to come and observe or watch, but an outpost of the kingdom of heaven on earth with a mission to be carried out. And that mission is God's glory known among the nations and included here. Come and engage in a new way. Those are some thoughts on maybe what it would mean.
Let's make room for a new normal. Thanks for checking in with us on this First Connect.